What is going on, guys? It's Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today, we're going to be talking about, of course, China, Russia, and the unstoppable asteroid possibly headed our way right now. All right, what is going on, guys? It's Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. We've got a ton to talk about, so before we get started, if you are new here, just know that we back up everything we say here with a bibliography. So if you are wondering where we got our information, of course, we make sure that you know exactly where we got our information. In fact, on our website, which is now newly updated, you will see there is no stopping this, which for some reason, I don't know why mine's not loading pictures, but it should show you the thumbnail. So NASA will fail. There's no stopping this. Of course, referencing their recent try at the simulation, and of course, it failed miserably once again. And by the way, it was pretty easy to call that because obviously all of the actual simulations have failed. This one was a very specific one, so we'll talk about that here in a second. Basically, they have no current technology that will stop an asteroid. So it's kind of funny that they're telling the public this now. I've been talking about this for 3 years. I believe that they've known this, and of course, the public will soon know. So we'll talk about that, and of course, what is going on. There are West Point papers being written right now that say we are already at conflict with, of course, the superpower China. So we'll talk about that as well. You can find it all here. If you want to grab a second device, you can follow along. You can read it later, or you can go down, and after you watch all of the show, you can actually go to the web-only content. There's going to be content there that's too hot for any platform right now. That is, of course, at the bottom. Or the content is biased to the point where we can't cover it without, being neutral. So again, all of that will be down below. There's a little bit of both sides down there. So again, great stuff down there. And then if you are not getting notifications, remember to go to marfooglenews.com. This black screen will show you it at some point. And you can also sign up for marfooglenews.com alerts. So if we send out an alert, we make sure that we make it count. We don't send them out very often. We will also use that system if we absolutely knew without a shadow of a doubt that something was going to go down, we would let you know through that system. Most likely we won't have any other systems, and who knows, we won't even have that system if it's really bad. But again, if it's something that we have preemptive knowledge on, then we're going to let you know. All right, let's bring in Dex. Dex, my internet brother and my co-host. What is going on, Dex, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
Just to remind everybody, today's show is brought to you by NordVPN. If you want to help support the channel, every time that you go and sign up for a service like NordVPN or EMP Shield, it helps our channel grow. We are truly independent. We do not have a multi-channel network. We don't have anyone to answer to except for you. So thank you guys for being our backbone and helping us out. Again, this is NordVPN is something that actually protects you against cyber threats, which we're going to be talking about that as well in just a minute. All right, let's get started. The first, right out of the gate, of course, one of spring's most breathtaking meteor showers is happening this week. So I've already seen a couple last night. I already watched at least 3 pass by, so I don't know if it's, all last week it seemed like it was another one. Of course, if you've watched this show, you know that I believe that there is way more coming in than what they want to let us know, whether that be, meteorites, or that be space junk or space trash or some sort of conflict going on above our heads. That might sound crazy at first, but if you consider what the DoD has said, how they've come out in public and said that now, of course, both of the other superpowers have weaponized space, then it becomes a lot less crazy. And with the backup of course, military officials now coming out and saying that there's stuff going on above our heads that we have no clue, that the public has no clue about. So it says, grab a blanket, a lawn chair, and get ready to kick back and bask in one of the most breathtaking sky events of the spring season. The Eta Aquarid meteor shower is set to happen before dawn Wednesday on May 5th, coming from the debris tail of Halley's Comet. So, Dex, it sounds like this one is not this isn't,
I've never even heard of this one.
Well, okay, so does this thing come around all the time, or is this yearly? Because it seems like every time we're covering these, it's like the first time, and they're like, oh, this happens all the time. How?
Yeah, they make it out like it's, oh, you should expect this. It's, it's here it is again. Get the lawn chair, gather the family around, right? But I don't know. I've never heard of this, and coming into a debris field sounds really interesting. We've talked a lot about what that may or may not be. Obviously, this is coming from what they're reporting is coming from Halley's Comet, which goes around like every 80 something years, I believe.
Now, again, this is something that, every time we cover these, because we've been covering them for 3 years, I keep seeing new meteor showers that I've never heard of. And you could say that that's just ignorance of keeping track of these things. But for the last 3 years, almost every meteor shower has been in the mainstream media and kind of pushed out to, when they don't have news, they make sure to mention every little space thing that they can, whether it be, a brighter star tonight, brighter than the last 40 years. They put it in the mainstream media. This, of course, I've never heard of this either. So this one must be a once in a while kind of thing. But I would also keep your head on a swivel just for anything random from Space Force to come down either too. All right, so get your binoculars or your telescopes out on May 5th. If you get footage of this, send it to Play My Video. Go to marfooglenews.com and you'll see a tab at the top that says Play My Video. Once you click on that, you can actually submit your own video footage of this meteor shower. If you want to take a time lapse or if you want to do something for us, we will be glad to show it on the show if you get some good footage. All right, and then this is what I'm talking about as far as NASA failing horribly again. So first off, I've talked about this for a long time. Most of you that have been following me know my opinion. I believe that there is something headed our way, and I believe that it shaped why we did certain things. And of course, if you look at the last 5 years, we've had a lot of just really drastic, crazy changes. We had Space Force put into play, which, by the way, for them to start Space Force, they had to have good reason for it. They had to have some sort of reason. Now, some of you may say, well, it's because China and Russia are up in space and they're doing things and we had to come up with a defensive. Usually the United States is not coming up with a defensive to their stuff. It's usually the other way around, like we've already been doing it. We may have, and now we had to come out publicly because they're going to be publicly doing something. I don't know. But I do know that we have done a whole lot of simulations on asteroids hitting Earth. They've also done a lot of studies, a lot of paid studies on how to direct asteroids. And it's just now kind of, it's kind of leaking out right now that they do have this as one of their top priorities. And again, this simulation on top of the New York simulation that was teamed up with FEMA just a few years ago, not even, it was probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, both failed. And this was some of the smartest people in the world, the smartest think tanks working on this. And it says that the NASA simulation confirms there's no technology able to stop a massive asteroid from hitting. Now, the DART system we've talked about, there's DART, there's HAMMER, Hypervelocity Asteroid and Mitigation Emergency Response Vehicle, basically a nuke on a rocket. That's an impactor. This is a system that they were trying to, again, impact and nudge it. Apparently didn't work as well as they thought it would, or won't work as well as they thought it would. It says simulations carried out by leading space agencies have concluded there currently is no technology available that could stop a massive asteroid from wiping out Europe. It says a report by The Independent said that NASA conducted a week-long exercise which concluded from the hypothetical impact scenario. Even with a 6-month advance notice, current capabilities could not prevent a catastrophe. When you get past 6 months, then you're talking about, of course, not being able to predict exactly where it's going. So they basically have no way to stop this if it's coming. It says participants in the simulation, which was conducted during a planetary defense conference. Again, this is a UN-run thing. A planetary defense conference hosted by the UN, United Nations, said that the only course of action on such short notice would be an evacuation of an area before an asteroid hit. However, the simulation's impact zone covered large parts of North Africa and Europe. So do you think that they're going to get people out? If they cannot get people out of New York, how do you think they're going to get everybody off of, Europe or, again, North Africa or, of course, all of Europe? They're not going to. So even, I don't know, though, if they did have 6 months, but we've seen where asteroids have already passed us and they just found out about them. They say, oh, this barely missed us. Or they say it's going to miss, and then it lands in the waters of Jamaica and causes a small, little tiny tsunami, right? So they're not exactly perfect on this science, and they know that.
And this is 2 for 2 on the fail, right? At least. So
and
that doesn't seem like there's any positivity in their ability to find any way to resolve this issue.
And we don't know how many tests that they've done in behind the scenes. But it says, reportedly, the hypothetical impact exercise revealed that governments are dreadfully unprepared for this type of disaster. Lindley Johnson, NASA's planetary defense officer, noted that this kind of exercise helps reveal who the, quote, key players are in a disaster event and who needs to know what information and when. So they don't even have... Think about this. Think about if you had to coordinate something, and think about this. There are human beings coordinating this. Think about how some of the smartest people in the world can coordinate a party and screw it up. Think about having to coordinate something like this where you have everybody, and when you get into the kind of upper echelons of the smartest people in the world, they all think that they know it all, so they're all going to be kind of butting heads. I have heard that, when there are scenarios like this, or when they have issues with NASA, and even in our previous launches or the things that they supposedly said they did, is where they argued with each other. And they had all of it. In fact, NASA has caused catastrophes by the arguing between some of their top people, arguing, should we do this or should we not? And they ended up not doing something that could have saved the astronauts, or done something that they shouldn't have if they would have just waited and thought it out. So, going off of, the smartest minds in the world. But this is, of course, if you are in the belief of, everything that they tell us. So I'd love your opinion. I know that everybody has differing opinions, including some of my mods. Probably do not think that this would even exist. The one thing I do know, though, is that the people at the very, very top are being convinced this, and they're secretive. They're not telling anybody that. So are they tricking them just so they can set something up? I don't know. But the people at the very, very top of the military, they know that this is a big threat. But how big? Again, the Sunspot Observatory, I still think that that's weird. I still think that some things don't add up there. But again, that's just me asking questions. How many kind of cover-ups in history have we had that 20 years later we found out about that didn't look like cover-ups at all, or had a very clever story that just everybody went, oh, okay. That makes sense. So, what do you think? Connie Easley says, I remember Jay Lee running fast. Sky F, thanks for being here. We've got a lot of new names again. Tulip Bears. Paula Hoskins, thank you so much for being here. Mystic Dragon. C. Mullen. We've got Sandra in Texas in the house. Jem, Bold the Coffee. Jammer 1. Carolina Roots. Leopold Girl, thank you so much. Cypher 9, thank you for being here. Tiffany Hartman, thank you everybody that is in the chat right now. For the thousands that may be listening, I really do appreciate each and every one of you, and was just talking with my friends over my birthday, and I just really appreciate that you are all here almost every single night, so thank you. Crazy Owl, thank you for being the last one out, along with 2 old people on a couch. I appreciate you guys being the last one out, supporting last show. All right, and then back to NASA and this whole scenario. I know that everybody has differing thoughts, but let me ask you this. If the very top people are keeping this so close and not saying anything about it, then what event do you think will happen? Because they're the ones that are expecting something, massive and big to happen. Is there something? So again, I have to ask this question every time. If there was going to be something that hit, say in 2024 or 2025, right? Would they tell us? Absolutely not. And we know this. In fact, military officials have said they would not tell us until they had a solution, or that there was absolutely 100% no solution. So why would that be so? Because they wouldn't want to cause panic. And this isn't to scare people. This is a reality of being a human being, supposedly on a spinning ball, spinning through Earth or spinning through space. If that is what is really going on, none of us have been to space, so it's a moot point to even argue about it. But we will soon find out. I think that something is bigger there, and if they did find out, they would have already known by now. With how many telescopes that they have facing up, I think that they would have found something that has a rough estimate of hitting us. Even if it's in 100 years, would they tell us? I don't think they would. I think that they would make an executive decision on that and say, even if it's in 100 years, people would start freaking out about that kind of stuff. So, again, what do you think? And then we have, of course, a huge Chinese rocket part is making an out-of-control descent to Earth. The 30-meter-tall, 21-ton rocket booster launched by China last week could fall in areas as far north as New York State and as far south as NZ. Of course, can't say NZ after the horrible event that happened there, and they filtered that one out. An enormous rocket component that China recently launched into space is out of control in orbit and is expected to make a chaotic re-entry into the atmosphere this week, provoking concerns about a possible impact in a populated area. Now, Dex, isn't it kind of funny that the last test that they did was in New York?
Well, yeah, and so this one's really concerning. It's a large one, but it's, what's also interesting, I learned just from this article alone, is this happened recently in Washington with SpaceX in your state. I don't know if you even knew that. I didn't know it.
Oh, in Washington State? Yeah. So
yeah,
that's
something from SpaceX hit a farm out there.
No, and remember, we were doing a show, and then everybody said that they looked outside and they caught video of it. In fact, I think we showed video of it, did we not?
Yeah, we talked about it burning, but I didn't know that the debris actually ended up hitting somewhere. But this thing is huge. I mean, you'll read it in a second, but this thing's really big, and it's kind of concerning if it, hopefully it lands in water. There's obviously more water than there is land on Earth, but, if it does hit a populated area, it could do some serious damage.
Okay, and it says 21 tons and 30 meters, so this is 90 feet tall. How many stories? 90 feet. Okay, so it's almost a 10-story building. A 10-story building is about 100 feet. So it's about 10 feet per story. So it's a 9-story building careening towards possibly New York as far south as NZ. Of course, they're putting it out early, so everybody says, oh, well, this is just a satellite. This is just something. But do you think that regular people will be able to go where this actually crashes? Just say, hypothetically, if it hits a populated area, do you think that the government will not be there the second it hits? This is a piece of China technology landing possibly in the United States. I don't think so. In fact, I think that they may have some sort of treaty. I don't know what would happen in this case, but if it did hit, say, in rural New York or something and landed, would China be able to come and retrieve their gear? This is technology that, of course, is Chinese. Or
finders keeper.
Yeah, is it finders keepers? So, who knows? So somebody said space is not fake. My question to anybody that goes against it, and that's fine, would be then what are they? What would they be hitting us with? What would this be from? Would it be from the Truman Show dome? Would they be dropping pieces of their lights? You see what I mean? Either way, we know that stuff happens, and we see at least some of it with our own eyes as far as what the result is. We can argue about it all day, but what ends up happening to us? I guess you can go on a deeper level than that, but what I think is that they have basically told the top tier people before every event, and almost every event too has had its warnings. Every event has had its signs before it happens. You can be the judge on that.
I think it's crazy that anyone in the Foogle fam right now, this could be in your backyard. Like, keep your eyes out, right? Like, oh, by the way, there's a thing coming down, and it could be in anybody's backyard. Hopefully not through your roof.
Yeah, hopefully not through your garage onto your nice hot rod, which happened a few years ago. In fact, when I was covering news 2.5 years ago or something, they said an asteroid landed in this guy's garage and took out his, like, super rare or at least super custom car. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but I covered that way early when I was doing, like, phone videos. And then we have a Chinese company claims to be working on a Starship-like rocket. So it says last weekend on April 24th, China celebrated its 6th National Space Day, aka Aerospace Industry Achievement Exhibition in Nanjing, an event that highlights advances China has made in space. Similar to Space Day that is held each year on the first Thursday in May, this year will be held on May 7th, the goal is to foster interest in space exploration and the STEMs so as to inspire the next generation of astronauts and aerospace engineers. This year, the festivities focused on Chang'e 5 mission, which showcased some of the lunar samples it brought back, and the name of China's first Mars rover, Zhurong. I thought Zhu were right, but apparently Zhu were wrong. Dex, do you have cricket sounds? No.
Chirp, chirp.
Which will be landing on the red planet later this month. But another interesting snippet was a video presented by one of China's main rocket manufacturers that demonstrated that they were working on a rocket similar to the Starship. So basically they have ripped off absolutely everything. Now they have a big effing rocket themselves. That's what I pull on this, and I bet you part of that might be the, what was that hack? That huge hack, Solar Winds? Maybe they got into SpaceX's private folders. Who knows? But, and again, if you don't know what the Solar Winds hack is and you've been under a rock, it was one of the largest hacks in the world. It hacked into all 5 military branches. It hacked into the Pentagon. It hacked into almost every large business, including your Targets, your Fred Meyers, your Costco's. Almost every business that used this got a backdoor into it for possibly months, if not longer. And of course, they got a ton of information out of it. Now they are pointing towards Russia. But if once I read this West Point paper to you in a second here, you will kind of understand. And I've been saying this for now 2 years, 2.5 years. This has become my view. You'll see somebody who is at West Point is pretty much the same way. On that note, if you do want to protect yourself, I highly, highly, highly recommend looking into one of these. Again, if you have not looked at EMP Shield yet, I would highly recommend it. This is one of the few devices that can actually protect you against all 3 phases of an EMP. Again, all 3, including E1, E2, and E3. And it can protect you against multiple phases of it. So again, they keep pulsating and they keep trying to knock out your electronics. Now, if you have one of these protecting, say, your generator, after it's all done, however many waves come, you will actually have the ability to get your stuff up and running and then power your devices, which are also protected. They make a device for your house, for your car, for your generator. They even make one for your ham radio. So again, this is the same company that has contracted with DoD, DHS in the past, and of course the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid. You can get any of these protections, including solar, at marfooglenews.com/EMP. Not only that, you will end up getting a discount, and you will be helping the Foogle fam out. All right. And then let's see here. We're going to go right into this. And then Dex, why don't you touch on the DE device for biomedical and military defense applications?
Wow. Yeah. So here we have, again, another energy device. And we've been talking about this. It seems like it becomes more and more mainstream. But this is an invention coming out of Purdue. where innovators have provided a new option to use DE for biomedical and defense applications. So the invention uses a composite-based nonlinear transmission lines, NLTLs, for a complete power microwave system, eliminating the need for multiple auxiliary systems. The interest in this has increased in the past few decades because of they offer an effective solid-state alternative to conventional vacuum-based high-powered microwave generators. But what we're talking about here is beaming energy, right? We're talking about, whether it's in microwave form or even smaller form, millimeter or whatever, and using that in whether it's in medical, in the biomed field, or in a defense. And we know we've talked quite a bit about the different applications for defense, everything from the current stuff like active denial systems to other things. So again, more evidence that this is being brought to the forefront, being brought to the public. We talked about the strange happenings with the two ships, one in China, and then later, a few weeks later, one in America. They were both amphibious.
It was a couple
ships,
months,
right? A couple months, yeah. But they were back to back, and they both just randomly burned, right? So,
and not only burned, but they burned for 5 days straight without an accelerant. These did not hit the gas tanks. These did not hit the fuel tanks. This wasn't something where an oil tank caught on fire and burned for 5 days. It was the steel of the steel ship. Not only that, it was the same exact kind of ship. They were amphibious assault carriers. We just recently retired and I don't know if we're scrapping it or if it's going to a museum, but that ship is no longer, it's done because of this fire. So it put that one out of commission. Now, that would be the carrier that we use to go island hopping with. Now, of course, they had their ship catch fire first. So randomly in port, in their port. And then just a couple months later, their amphibious assault carrier, very particular kind of ship, in port caught fire for 5 days. Then we had our amphibious carrier caught fire for 5 days. Not a single mainstream article about how these could be connected. Have you guys seen one? I haven't. How is nobody making the connection? What are the odds of two assault carriers, amphibious assault carriers, a very specific kind of ship that has boats come out the back of it, both catch fire for 5 days? Basically saying, oh, we've got that tech too. I'll say supposedly, allegedly, that's what I think my opinion is. Is anybody on the same page as me? Because how does that happen? Both were in port. They did not even leave. So how would they do that unless somebody walked up and did it? It's a ship full of, a ship at least monitored, right? In both cases, monitored by the military. So how is it even possible? Unless it was some sort of, magnifying glass on an ant. Only that magnifying glass is in space, and that ant is an amphibious assault carrier. So if you don't think this is getting serious, I think it's just not public. And look what has happened since with the two countries. And everybody is pointing this way. Meanwhile, the real people in the government, they are putting reports together saying it is this way, this way, this way.
And this technology, what's so, I guess, advanced about this, and they probably had this, they're just now telling us about it or making it out as it's being invented. But what they're doing is eliminating a very large component of the DE system. And that pulse, what was called a pulse generator, they don't need anymore, right? So they're able to use DC, and DC, just think of it like batteries, right? Take DC voltage and charge the system up with that, and then use a gas-based switch and basically completely eliminate the need for this giant pulse generator that they had to use in the older models. So it makes it more rugged, more probably nimble. They can probably do more with it.
Well, yeah, again, it's going to have a lot of, they say it's going to have a lot of different applications. And of course, now we're going to see it more in the public eye than it was. Remember, people got deleted off of the internet for talking about this exact technology because it was a theory. It was a theory. Now it is mainstream. So just think about that. For all the stuff that you think is totally kooky now, think about 5 years from now and look at how technology is advanced and look at where they say somehow we're going to be by, say, 2030. How are we going to get there without our lives drastically changing and quick? And I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure just in the last year and a half, our lives have. Every single thing about your life has changed, has it not? And what's so crazy is we're broadcasting to countries all over the world, but it's pretty safe to say that you've been affected by the same thing I have. I'm sitting in Seattle, Washington. You may be in NZ or Europe or in France or in Spain or in Brazil or in India. You have been affected by the same thing that has affected me. Life is changing, and it's not going to be fun. So all these people thinking that this is all fear-mongering, those are people that are just not ready to look at this in the eye and say, this is happening. This is real, and we have to prepare ourselves mentally. There's no other thing you can do. You can physically prepare, but at the same time, you need to mentally prepare. And if you're fearful, then you're not prepared. You need to get yourself to a point where you are not afraid. You need to look at this in the face and not be afraid of this. That's why it should not be fear-mongering, because there should be no fear involved. If something does pop off with China or Russia or any other country, it's going to happen. So what are you going to do about it? It's just the same thing, the fear with fear of death and the fear of everything else. We're scared. We shouldn't be. Once you accept that we all have to go at some time, then it starts getting a little bit easier to take this stuff with, a little bit of understanding. There's going to be way more crazy stuff happening even just in the next 6 months. Now, this is incredibly, incredibly important here. I hope that people absorb this out of this entire show. I hope we'll try to clip this because I think this is incredibly important. This is from news.com.au, Australia. China already engaging in an irregular war with U.S. in the gray zone. It says decades of writings of China's top tacticians reveal this to be so. National security leaders should look closely at what Chinese officials' words and China's military actions say about the PLA army and might actually fight a conflict. A U.S. military academy analysis warns. They say it's a conflict already well underway. That means the start of any conventional conflict will be murky and confused. Again, so conventional being we're actually pop, 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 right? And even once the shooting starts, sowing doubt and disbelief will be a significant weapon in its arsenal. This is creepy. This is a writing by a West Point paper here. It will involve police. It will involve militias. It will involve civilians. I do like how they wrote this and put that to where it stands out, because this is, I think, what people need to mentally prepare for. And if it does happen, then we are all going to turn into a different type of person. One that didn't sign up for any of it. And it says, and all will serve to pave the way for the more traditional weapons to find its targets. It's called the gray zone. It's the space between peace and conflict. It's where coercion, intimidation, propaganda, and manipulation are at play. Now, I highly think that this one may be dinged right here. It says, democracies' fear of escalation is a significant deterrent against the use of violent military options in the gray zone. And what is exactly the fear of authoritarian states wish to instill, wrote retired British Army Colonel Richard Kemp. It's about twisting the D values, such as the rule of law, against itself. Look at what is happening right now. Somehow people have been pushed in public eye, and it's just being drilled into your head that we don't need to call somebody, and if somebody's robbing our house at 2 a.m., we want them to show up in an hour and a half, because that's what's happening right now. My friend just had their house alarm go off with 3 people inside of his house. The cops did not show up for 2.5 hours. It just so happens that we are now so severely understaffed for police here in Seattle that it takes 2.5 hours to respond to something. Now, I don't know if that was because of a specific area. Maybe there was something bigger going on. Who knows? Maybe they're all responding to protests. Don't know. But what I do know is that 2.5 hours is a family getting buried if they were home. Now, 2.5 hours is really bad. And you should definitely look at how many police have just quit in the Seattle force. Why? Because they have no back. The few back they have, and if you talk to any of them, and I've talked to plenty of them, they all say, oh, no, we're good. We know. I say, you've got people backing you up all over the place. And they say, oh, yeah, we know. But I'm sure they don't think that all the time. Because right now, it is one of the scariest and unpleasant jobs to have. And there are so many good police out there, and it's really sad. But again, there is all of these views getting so drastically changed just in the last 2 years that we're looking at the world in a different way so fast. How did people get changed from all of these kind of traditional, ingrained in our society ways, and within 2 years, boom, 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 one big event after another? Do you think that there's not more big events happening? If we're right here on this kind of goalpost, and over 30 years, we kind of knew it was going to happen, and people say, that's never going to happen, and then all of a sudden in 2 years, they got this much done. How do you think they're going to get off to this way far off goalpost of 2030 and all the stuff that they say that is going to be done? Like people in, big cities, getting everybody out of the rural areas, cutting gas out of the picture, cutting meat out of the picture. Everybody's going to be eating fake meat. We're going to be limited to 1 hamburger per month. We're also going to be tracked every single place we go. All of us will have a bank account. Now, this sounds like some sort of, civil rights speech, like all of us, but it's not a good thing. It says is engaging in irregular fare today. The West Point paper asserts China is employing lawfare to achieve strategic aims. The maritime militia is enforcing China's sovereignty claims in the East and South China Seas against U.S. partners and allies. And it is already weaponized international information flows and channels of influence, along with cyber, economic, and psychological tactics. Divide and conquer. Now, where do you think that this West Point paper writer is at right now? Where do you think he or she? Where do you think that they're? How big of a spectrum do you think that they think is them? How much do you think of all of this do you think that they are crediting that country with? Russia and China plan on winning the great power competition by undermining the U.S., sowing discord, and continuing a secret conflict until the positions in the world order are reversed. That pretty much says everything. But these 3 words, polarization, conspiracy, and hate, those are words that are being drilled down your throat. It says they already exist, but a few well-placed social media posts and complicit influencers can nudge them in a beneficial direction. Many elements of irregular conflict, such as psychological, legal, and cyber, are central to the PLA's concept of information and the theory of victory in a conventional conflict. So we know for a fact their plans of taking over or in a conventional conflict, that is the last step of a many-step plan. And the many steps in the beginning, if somebody could prove it, all of them would line up exactly with what is going on right now. And we'll be screaming it from the top of the mountaintops until we can't. And people are going to say, oh, that, whatever. Beijing's military has a name for it: the three warfares: public opinion, morale, legal processes. This is all part of their conflict. This is very smart conflict here. All are manipulated to achieve Beijing's ends. The purpose is to stifle criticism of the CCP, spread positive views of these, and influence governments in favorable ways to China. The outcome is to sow discontent and confusion ahead. This is a very important part. The outcome is to sow discontent and confusion ahead of any direct conflict. It's the run-up to and during a conflict we would expect the forces to ramp up these efforts, especially against nations hosting U.S. forces, which every place that is having issues. I don't have a globe memorized or a piece of paper, whatever shape you want it to be. But I do know that every place that has a U.S. base is having issues with one country. Whether it be tariffs, whether it be taxes, whether it be something else. It says the Australian Strategic Policy Institute agrees. There's also a lucrative market of influence for hire service providers to which state actors can outsource propaganda distribution and influence campaigns to obfuscate their activities. So when you have enough money, you can basically get anything done. You can get opinions changed. You can get a complete message drilled into millions of brains. Remember, there's over 1 million employees of their government on the internet at all times. So you know how people talk about these fake comments and fake this and fake that? They accuse almost every channel I know, like, this is a fake comment. I've commented on Tom McDonald's channel on a music video, and there's people that go, fake comment, who says that? What was my comment? Saying, you're an inspiration, Tom, or something like that. This is a fake comment. Blah, blah. That's because maybe that person is actually smarter than the dumb. I'm like, really? Click on my, I guess you can't even click on the icons anymore. But he said, I'm a channel, I'm a real person, right? But that's why people think that. Because there is that. And there's over 1 million. Facebook has 30,000 employees to do their bidding, right? Their government has 1 million. That is that's enough to shift anything into trending. That's enough to shift any kind of Twitter conversation. And guess what? They're all on VPN, so they can put themselves all over the world. And I'm sure that's how part of it works. Dex, what do you think about that? You're our tech expert.
Absolutely. It doesn't take 1 million to make something go viral. It takes a lot less. And to have a 1 million, person group that can go out and actually change or push or create information in a way that can become, mainstream. That's and we watched it in the stock market with just small groups of people on the internet, right? They can go out and push a stock up or push, different types of things that can happen. So imagine what 1 million people can do.
And imagine when all of the 6 families have been infiltrated that own every single piece of media in the world. Did you realize that? 6 families run all media. So, moving on. Let's go over. Thank you so much. Vidicus Rising says, Omnis mundi sesena est, omni itium habet finem. I hope I didn't swear in Spaniard, but there it is. Vidicus Rising, thank you for the support. And I thank you for the comment. James Fox, thank you so much for, of course, supporting. You can always make a comment if you do a super chat. Watcher 2, hello, Fugalonians. I have never seen that that made-up word about Fugals. I've seen everything else. Watcher 2, that was very unique. Miguel, let's see here. EMP, and we won't shoot it down. There goes the power grid satellite hoax video. I don't know if that's a working link, but I will check it out, Miguel. Colo Jan, thank you. And then Miguel says, space is fake. The Earth is and hashtag Earth. It will be a deliberate attack if it is anything at all. Miguel, thank you for the comment. Again, I think that it is definitely still up to debate. Daniel Lazarus, they will only tell us lies. How long does it take us to learn? Daniel Lazarus. By the way, Miguel, on that subject of it being that way, I encourage anybody and everybody to go down that rabbit hole and to look at it for themselves, because there's definitely some very compelling, crazy, weird stuff. Little Red KS, thank you so much. Michelle Bybee, been a bit since I could contribute. Thank you for much, for both you and Dex and families. Of course, everyone else. Thank up and keep up the great work. Thank you so much, Michelle Bybee. And Darlene Hartzell. Believe in the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. He loves you and doesn't want any to perish. 1 Corinthians 15:1-4. Darlene, I don't know if that was a mistake or not, but make sure you can actually go in and edit on your channel if that was. If not, thank you. If so, whatever it was supposed to be, thank you. Again, thank you for supporting Independent, and thank you for being a Foogle fan. Again, there's a reason it takes a month and a half for those to go through, is just in case there is an accident. Scott Fitzwater, I've been watching for 6 months and enjoy the show. Thanks, Dex and Marth. And then Chic Herder, thank you for subscribing. Kim Harrelson, thank you for subscribing. And Judy Ann Needens just joined the channel. Thank you. If you do subscribe during the show, you will get a shout out, and I really do appreciate you. You guys have no idea how much we appreciate each and every one of you. So thank you so much. If you haven't already, subscribe. I know that 44% of our viewers do not or are not subscribed. I think that's pretty crazy, but make sure to do so, because we do put out stories and other things on updated stories and things like that on the moment. All right, and then we've got China's new nuclear. Anybody that's watched the show for a long time knows how hard that first sentence was to say. China's new nuclear submarine armed with missiles that could destroy any city in America. China has unveiled a new nuclear submarine capable of destroying any city in the U.S. mainland. Until now, most U.S. cities had been out of range of China's submarine-launched missiles because of the protective First Island chain, a series of U.S. bases dotted across Pacific Ocean that are all equipped with sophisticated submarine detection systems. But with the launch type of an 094A or Jin-class nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine on Friday, America's first line of defense is no longer relevant. It says that the Jin-class runs quieter than its predecessors, giving it much more chance of slipping past America's first line of defense, and can carry the JL-3 or Julang or Big Wave nuclear missile that has a 6,200-mile range. So it can go past that. It says a Chinese military source told the South China Morning Post. So again, this is coming from their government-funded. Am I correct on that? Dex, this is.
Yeah, you're right. And if that's the source in this quote, yeah, absolutely.
So that actually does say that this is them reporting on them, right? It says improving hydrokinetic and turbulent systems, allowing it to carry the more powerful. So anybody who is a critic of this could very well say that is the South Morning China Post reporting on, Chinese news. So they could totally be making it up. Just saying. That's why we say take everything with a grain of salt. Before the upgrade, the source added, the submarine, I like how they say source. It's just like, it's all owned by the same thing. So it's not even a source. It's like, their boss told them. The submarine was armed with the inferior JL-2 that could only hit the northeast United States, but now it's able to cover the whole American continent. So one thing I want you to think about is that this is done on purpose. Everything is done on purpose. Every piece of article that, say, South Morning Post puts out could very well, 90% of it could be propaganda. But it very well could be a message. It's a message to the United States, or it's a message to Congress or whatever. They've put out a lot of different stuff on the South Morning Post. We always look at that. We always look at Australian news. We always look at European news. We always look at even Brazilian news. We look at world news all over the place.
Well, and this is UK article quoting the South China Morning Post. So it's a combination, right? You've got two different media outlets here.
So you never know what this is meant to do. But I definitely would say right now it is something to be watching very closely. And then we have Asia Pacific Philippines foreign minister issues expletive-laced tweet over China Sea dispute. So he basically lost his shit on Twitter. It says that the Philippines Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodora Locsin did this. It says that he demanded on Monday in an expletive-laced message on Twitter that China's vessels get out of disputed waters. He straight up said, "Get out." Not at all a good Arnold, but I tried. Of disputed waters, marking the latest exchange in a conflict of words with Beijing over its activities in the South China Sea. We have bases there. Every country that has U.S. bases or U.S. ties or has U.S. backing them is having problems with China. The comments of Teodora Locsin, known for making blunt remarks at times, follows Manila's protest for what it calls the illegal presence of hundreds of Chinese boats inside the Philippine EEZ, or the Exclusive Economic Zone. That's a 200-mile zone outside of their stuff, which they say, these boats should not be in. And that's probably why they did these, supposed maritime fishing boats or whatever, right? If you see these boats, they're gigantic and they're all linked together. They make a wall. It is incredible to see it. You can see it from a satellite. These are 200 maritime militia armed and loaded boats. And when you see the actual simulations that the DoD and of course, the Pentagon has put together on how they may try to, if they were, so hypothetical situation, if they were to invade, this is how they would do it. And in that hypothetical situation, every expert said that they would win, was that they take the Philippines, they take all of these bases, all of the ones we were just mentioning that are our first line of defense, they would take them out with a bio event, and then while that happens, take Taiwan, and then from Taiwan do a lot of their launching. And this would be teamed up with Russia moving in at the same time. At the same time, they would actually use parts of Ukraine. So just want to get this out there. In a lot of their plans, for this to work, for them to beat the United States, they need to take Taiwan and they need to take Ukraine. It's just funny that that's what the whole issue is right now, is them getting Taiwan back and them getting Ukraine back. This was the quote, and I won't read the whole thing. In fact, it says, "China, my friend, how politely can I put it? Let me see. Oh, get the out," Locsin said in a tweet on his personal account. "What are you doing to our friendship? You, not us. We're trying. You're like an ugly oaf forcing your attentions on a handsome guy who wants to be a friend. Not to father a Chinese province," Locsin said. I kind of like this guy already.
That was a classic tweet.
You're like an ugly oaf forcing your attentions on a handsome guy who wants to be a friend. Basically, you're trying to be more than friends. And so is he saying that China's a girl, an ugly oaf girl, trying to get on an attractive guy that just wants to be friends? That's, in a way, its own set of insults right there. And I'm sure, as far as their culture go, very offensive. It says China's embassy in Manila did not immediately respond to request for comment. Chinese officials have previously said that the vessels at the disputed Whitsun Roof were fishing boats taking refuge from rough seas for half a year and loaded with maritime militia. I added the last part. China claims almost the entire South China Sea, through which about $3 trillion of shipborne trade passes each year. So pretty incredible stuff there. Thank you. Priscilla R says, worry, it gives you gray hair, which I actually just started getting this last year. Kebaran, Johofu, thank you for gifting out subs to people over there. Scooby-Doo Do Right, Mrs. Jammer. We've got the Approaching Storms. We've got Bear Claws over there. Exhaler 8, thank you for just following. CP Wanstown, thank you so much for being here. Dixie Doe, Flawless in the USA. And then, of course, looks like Cloud Pharrell, Copper Tropicals in the house. If you guys haven't checked out Copper Tropicals, does a earthquake stream, basically showing you all of the earthquakes. Red Storm, you're right, Marv. Well, thank you, Red Storm. I appreciate that. And then GMI'd Guy, thank you so much for being here as well. What do you think about this? Do you think that those are just fishing boats, or do you think that they have more purpose than that? Voz Shadow, wish I could afford a jet, but you will have to drive. Thank you, Dex, and thank you and Dex for all you do. Thank you. Bill and Melinda are splitting up after 27 years. Is this a joke?
Nope, it's real.
No way.
And I'm sure we're all going to come up with a lot of crazy ideas as to why and what may come out. And, I don't know, maybe she's trying to take half of his money to save the world. Who knows?
I just want that to set in. That is going to be the root of an entire internet flurry of stories. This is unbelievable. Yeah, she gets half the money, and then what?
Imagine what she knows.
I don't. If that's the fact, then I wouldn't be surprised if, something.
And I wonder why.
Bourdain. They are this picture of a perfect couple. Why would he tweet that? Why would I this is so crazy to me. What is their foundation going to be called? The Bill and Someone Soon Foundation? Or Jerk and Melinda Gates? I don't know. Insane. Just a reminder.
It'll be public.
If you guys have not checked out NordVPN, today's show is brought to you by them. Make sure to use the special code Marfoogle to get upwards of 70% off. Actually, right now, I believe they're doing a buy two, get one free type of deal. You'll have to check for their current deals. Of course, you get a huge discount if you use our code. And on top of getting a discount and paying less, you will actually help the channel. Thank you, everybody that has done so or will do so in the future. MarfoogleNews.com/VPN. Yeah. And then we have Warren Buffett says Berkshire Hathaway is seeing very substantial inflation and raising prices. Dex, this is more your forte. If you want to tell us what this basically means.
I mean, it's sort of the obvious, because we've been talking about this for a while, right? Like, we're ahead of the game on this, but they're coming out publicly now and saying it. Now, obviously, Berkshire Hathaway owns a lot of housing. They own a lot of builders. They own a lot of manufactured home companies, and they But what they're obviously seeing is the same effects that we've been talking about, which is the pricing of steel, the pricing of wood, the pricing of everything is just skyrocketing. And while those numbers typically aren't used in standard inflation numbers, they're coming out and saying, hey, this notion of inflation is really high. The prices are rising. Inflation is here. And it's a big deal. And this is coming from, I mean, when Warren Buffett speaks, people listen. I mean, he's probably more influential than E.F. Hutton, right? But it's it is out there now. It's not coming from the government, but it's out there in a big way.
And it's out there enough. By the way, speaking of Warren Buffett, I believe DLive owner, the DLive owner paid $2 million just to have a lunch with Warren Buffett. That's how big he is. $2 million for a lunch. I believe it. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell reiterated last week that he expects inflation to show a temporary move higher, then settle back to around central bank's 2% target. The Fed has resolved not to raise interest rates until the economy sees full, inclusive employment, so as long inflation doesn't run too far above the goal. What's going to happen again when they stop all of these moratoriums for good? Think about how many people will be evicted. How are we going to think about this? How are we going to improve our employment rates when all of these people are going to be out of their cars? How are they going to, a lot of people that I know, these are people that have always paid their bills, people that are well-to-do. A lot of people I know that I've talked to, even if they're up on their rent, they're behind on their utilities. So they've got $3,000, $4,000 in utilities because the utilities weren't shutting off either. So with everything else not working, they decided to put that off. I wonder what's going to happen with that. But really, if you are behind in rent right now, don't support any of the us YouTubers or whatever. We need all you guys to be in houses. I'm really scared for what's going to happen to the people in the Foogle family and in general once that moratorium ends. It's really scary to think of that many people getting evicted all at once. So along with inflation, so then they're evicted and everything is more expensive. Everything is adding up to a massive just drop off a cliff. So I hope people are ready for it. This is why you get prepared now, before anything happens. And even if you don't think it will ever happen, just end up preparing anyways. Retail and consumer Tyson Foods Beyond Meat face-off with new plant-based burgers. This is just to add to what we've been saying. Of course, you're going to see a ton of this. All of a sudden, you're going to see everybody jumping in this market. One thing I would say, and this is not financial advice, of course. In fact, just to remind people, and I think I got to get this in somewhere. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of myself, Dex, or anyone else on the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. Felt like I needed to get that out there. But I have to say, Dex, I don't think I've even talked, we always talk about stuff like this, but think about the plant-based meat and investing in plant-based meat.
Yeah, I've had this, and again, it's not advice, it's an opinion. I've had this opinion that was, the things you don't like, but you see the big people doing, is probably where you want to invest a little money. Or is where I should rephrase that, probably where I want to invest a little money, because nothing's going to stop that stuff, right? And we're seeing it. Tyson is now in the game, and part of this article is about Beyond taking out a whole new revision in their product line coming out. And we've talked about the push that's going to happen by 2030, and what that's going to mean to the type of food we're going to be eating. And yeah, we don't like it. I don't like it. But if you think about it from a financial perspective, nothing's going to stop that wave. They're pushing it and they're going to make it happen.
Well, it's like if you absolutely hated something but there's a chance to get in it early, would you do it? I'm going to do a poll on the community post. I'm going to ask people if you would invest in something if you absolutely hated the thought of why it's being done. Because honestly, they are going to force a massive. They're telling us there's no way around it. Even if T-Man gets in again or whatever the next time around and says, "Oh, we're not going to do that," I still think that the rest of the world is already on board with this. They are talking about the United Nations and all of these different meetings being done, that they're going towards this direction that we will not be able to eat regular meat, or at least not without paying $1,000 for a bite of steak. That sounds astronomical and ridiculous, and it's going to happen. So imagine like if somebody told you, "Oh, everybody's going to be on a Microsoft computer before it happened." And you go, "Yeah, sure, whatever." It's got 2 buttons on the mouse. What are these freaking nuttos doing? And look at the guy. He's a dork. But he does have a perfect marriage. Too soon? One of New York City's and the world's top restaurants to go totally meat-free. 11 Madison Park is considered one of the finest restaurants in both New York City and the world. Starting next month, it will also be completely meatless and almost entirely vegan. In other news, 11 Madison Park will soon go out of business. Scientists warning before robot beat human at chess as AI could overtake us in the 2020s. Isn't that crazy? We're in the 20s right now. The roaring 20s. But we're not roaring. We're whatever the opposite that rhymes with roaring. 24 years ago today, an earth-shattering technological event changed the world and ushered in new certainty that robots will become more intelligent than people, possibly within the next decade. One thing I want you to think about is when you go to any grocery store, and my uncle just pointed out, all of Whole Foods just cut out almost all of their cashiers out of the equation. They are now doing self-checkout. Now, some of you might even like this and say, well, actually, I don't mind not dealing with a person and doing my own checking. But think about what it is doing to us physically. We are getting used to going in and checking in with a machine and doing all of our things for necessities through a machine. Not only that, we are cutting out the human interaction of a human being checking out our stuff. We are also deleting that position and deleting a regular job that very well could be a union job, a job that basically, could pay the wages, could say if they spent their money right and saved, could buy them a house and actually have them move into the middle class. Those are getting deleted. And by what? A little kiosk. Now Walmart. If you've been into a Walmart lately, I don't know how it is there, but here it is almost entirely all of the middle section. It was so crazy because they originally had one part that was self-checkout, and it was all regular checkouts. Then it was double checkouts, and then little tiny ones so you could get one or two things, but mostly that. Now it is one side of the store on one entrance is all self-checkout, a huge square, and then the other store is a huge square. And then the entire person-assisted checkout is completely roped off almost the entire time. And if they do open it up on some of these Walmarts, it's one or two cashiers and basically 30 open self-checkout. So everybody's going off to those. Now they've added these gates that open, which without the facial recognition, people aren't everything is done incrementally. You are going to see increments every single day. And you probably didn't even notice your local Walmart now has these power gates that open when you walk up. You didn't even notice, but they're actually adding gates that herd you. No joke. You don't exit a certain way. You can't. In fact, from the fruit and veggie, whatever, there's a gate. You have to go through the checkout or the self-checkout to exit. And to enter, you go through a power gate. Fred Meyer's, Targets, they're all starting to do this. And you don't realize where this goes. Then they add facial recognition. Then, if they have somebody who is, say, questionably maybe been a shoplifter before, or it's a mistaken identity and it has a similar face, it won't open. It will beep and it will say, you're not welcome here. Or, fast forward some more, your social credit score, which is getting kicked in, that has a lower score, and then it doesn't open for you. It's an episode of Black Mirror happening right in front of us, and nobody's doing anything about it because they add one little thing at a time. Am I wrong?
Oh, no, you're right on. And by the way, I like the cashier. They can check me out a lot faster than I can scan a buggy full of groceries.
Well, what's really annoying is when you have an actual whole cart of groceries and you're expected to go through with a huge cart of groceries. We have 3 kids. If we go grocery shopping, we do it once a week or maybe even once every 2 weeks. And when we do go grocery shopping, we get a whole cart. So then, because we're buying everything in bulk. So when we go, it's a huge thing. Who wants to have 3 kids, including a 1.5-year-old and a baby and a 6-year-old that's hyper and jumping all over the place, and have to check out the entire thing themselves where there's almost no space on the side of those things? It's super annoying. Does anybody else have that problem? They expect you to get a whole shopping cart of stuff and then give you one little, some of them like a foot of space, and then you've got to stack things 6 feet high because it's got a scale, and if you take anything off, then the only one human left has to come over and go tick, 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 tick. You're such an inconvenience, even though them coming over and typing that thing is actually a huge saving grace for their position. It's just nuts.
Yeah, when they started it, it was the onesie twosies, checkouts that were self-checkout. That was great because if you ran in for one thing, fine, run through there and scan it, and you're out the door. You don't have to wait in a long line. But I totally agree. Big wagon full of groceries. It takes forever for me to check that out, and there's no bag room, none at all.
So here's the scary part about this story, and we went off, and again for good reason because it's important. But here's the thing: one of the best chess experts, Russian grandmaster Garry Kasparov, very famous. I believe he's got books wrote about him. He is most likely the subject of movies. IBM's Deep Blue computer, in a 6-game chess match, defeated IBM's. He'd been expected to triumph due to the limited capabilities of artificial at the time. The following year, he faced off with the computer once more after it had undergone significant hardware improvements, giving it the ability to simulate millions of moves in a single second before making its choice. Experts predicted Kasparov would easily win again, including those who had developed the AI itself. It says, well, we were confident that the 1997 Deep Blue was much better than the 1996 version. In my mind, that the most probable outcome for the match was a draw, former IBM staffer Murray Campbell said. Even going into a final game of the match, I was expecting a draw, and likely a rematch. Robert Levinson, an associate professor of computer science, said Deep Blue lacked autonomy and adaptability, and that it would be a mind-blowing if the computer managed to win. And yet, that is exactly what happened. Sitting across the chessboard from another human who played the moves dictated by Deep Blue, Kasparov won the first game on May 3rd, possibly due to a bug within the computer software that caused it to make a fatal mistake. The next day's match didn't go so well for Kasparov, and he eventually resigned, accusing IBM of cheating. He said only another human grandmaster would have been capable to be such a sophisticated style of chess. This is scary because AI is now getting to the point where we're already, I believe, at the point of no return. This all ties into your daily life and how this is going to be implemented into your life. You don't realize it, but this is all going to be a part of the new future. And you're not going to understand it until it's too late. So make sure to let your friends and family know what's going on. And don't be afraid to be outspoken, because AI is definitely one of the biggest threats to humankind that it's ever seen. The truth is out there. The breakup sounds sketchy. Something more to this. Yeah. Maybe she got let in on some of the stuff that's planned. Maybe it's like those 90 nuclear scientists leaving China's research and development all at the same day. It's like they knew what was planned and they were like, nope, we don't want this blood on our hands. I don't know. Peg a Cug, thank you so much for following over on DLive. End Times flying to Texas next week to look for houses. End Times, congratulations. Seriously. I might be right behind you very soon. Lisa K23. Oh, wow. Fell asleep early. Up now. Great show. Lisa K23, thank you for making it. And no worries. There's replays for a reason, but glad to have you live. Divine 1122, thank you for being here. Nana Deborah, again, thank you. And look at that. They've got the awesome badges there. And then we've got Scooby-Doo Do-Right, Maui Racing Realtor is in the house. Thank you, everybody, for coming and supporting and just being there. Make sure to share this show with a friend if you can. Again, that is a very big thing. As far as, we don't tell you to do it. It's up to you if you want to share it. But it's hard to get somebody to watch a 2.5 hour, 3 hour show that goes into depth on every story. But for those of you that do like this, I appreciate it, and thank you for being here. Again, thank you all for the support tonight. Dex, let us know about the content.
Absolutely. So some interesting things. I mean, Kevin Bacon is going to be really upset because DC is now banning dancing. There's plenty of things still going on in Arizona, including even some spy planes that are circling around the events there, and many other interesting things that are in the not safe or not available and only on our website content. So go check it out. Go to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail, scroll down, find the web-only content, and see what you're missing.
Now, just to sum up the entire show today, NASA failed their 6-month simulation completely and horribly. There is no current. Now they have pretty much made sure there's no current technology that can stop an asteroid from hitting us. So there's that reassurance. China is essentially, the opinion of experts, already started a conflict and may be a part of almost everything that's going on with media, social media, everything else. Bill and Mel have taken a big split after 27 years of marriage. Microsoft mogul and his other half are no longer going to be halves. And China has subs that can basically sneak up on us or not even have to, because now they've got missiles that can go right past our defenses. So lots to go back over. Again, if you joined us late, thank you for showing up at all. We are blessed every single day to have any of you here, let alone thousands of you watching. So thank you. I cannot say enough. From my family to yours, thank you for showing up tonight. Thank you for everybody that supported tonight. Growing with Wally, thanks for stopping by. I'm sorry I caught you at the end of your stream the other night. If you guys haven't checked out Growing with Wally, he does growing lessons and he jams out. He does all sorts of good stuff. God bless y'all. Thanks for stopping by, Adam, the other day. No worry. We'll just keep doing stream tag. Alex G, Retta, Zeta, Rex Orbis. Every time, I love that name. Elites are pushing AI tech to ensure we are and prefer to be dependent on it, therefore herding us into easy control. By the way, hashtag Gallicos for Congress. I love it. Gone Girl PRS, thank you for the massive support. Thank you for being here. I hope you and others got the message I said earlier. Just, we need to be mentally prepared for all of this. Hello, Adam, Dex, and mods. Much love all. I'm building walls in my container and listening. I love it. Are you making an actual container house? We actually looked into that as far as you can make an entire house out of containers. I love you all. Hashtag soul safe. I love it. Survival living. What is going on, man? Nice to see you. Planned government funded cities. Monthly universal payments. Total control. Who owns the food? Exactly. Lola Cafe, thank you so much. Straight out of Stockton says Odd TV and Heibler Productions just released a new FE documentary. Hope people check it out. Respect and appreciate all that you do, Adam, and happy belated birthday. Straight out of Stockton, I will check it out. It's a new flat. Of course, that is something that they don't believe you should hear about, so probably even more reason to watch it. Survival Living, South Florida plans to move many roads due to sea level rising. I'm not a pro climate change, but our poles are shifting, hence new volume of water. I need a bigger boat. Survival Living, that quote, straight out of Jaws, and yet I think the shark is actually the government. Viticus Rising, thank you again for your support. James Fox, Watcher 2, Miguel, everybody over on DLive, thank you. And again, don't go out there and be afraid of anything, okay? You guys are the Marfia, and you're Marfia strong. Start to get to know each other and start building. All right? Dex, love you, brother.
Great show, brother.
Tomorrow we will have calls at 224-400-MARF. Again, today is news only, but again, tomorrow will be calls. So make sure to join us for tomorrow's show. Should be very, very interesting. In fact, we have a very unique show planned for you tomorrow. So be there on Marfoogle TV. And of course, we'll be putting out updates on Marfoogle News. If you have not already subscribed, make sure to do so. And of course, you can find everything on the website, marfooglenews.com. Love you. Be safe. Be prepared. And Marf out. Shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. Got the Randy Newman, Joe Adams, and Susie Cat. Getting Adam, Pat's Place, and that Walker Day and Mrs. Ann. Chastina, item 09, and everybody got cans. And better have food, better have water for what is can. Gonna be now, seeking Jim, got a grandma and a band. And Josh Bear, Jules Mark, Davis on band. Amica one, repo time, doing it just fine. I've got you and Susan, Blue and Cindy too. Da 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 da, da 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 da. with the love. Judy Al in the back, everybody wanna out. Who goes there? I shout Joe and that low-key brains. And the Benjis, bringing on the Sandy. I'm gonna go back with Sandy. Just pair, gonna split like Bill and Melinda Gates. Free